Alright guys, we've got a, 10-minute game, a 10 plus 5 second increment on the board. I'm not going to play my normal Vienna. So I've got the white pieces, my opponent's rated 7-5-3, and we've got e4, e5, and the McConnell defense. Okay, now what do we know, boys and girls, about bringing our queen out early? Well, one thing we know from the Vienna is that a queen here makes a nice target for this knight to come here, and maybe to there. You can also do this, you get this quite often in the Danish gambit as well. Queen comes out here to defend the f7 pawn, and can also become a target. As soon as that queen comes out in the Danish, generally this knight dives in to the action. Okay, so now here, I'm hitting the queen and also attacking c7 with a potential fork on the king and the rook. So really the queen is going to be forced back to d8. So that to me looks like a forcing move. And therefore I can break the rule of moving a developed piece a second time because there's a reason for it. The reason is that I'm going to force my opponent to undevelop his queen. And he's undeveloped his queen. There we go, right? So now we could go for a kind of Danish gambit approach. d4 is playable. It's defended by knight and queen. But let's just be more principled. Let's go... I like bishop to here. I'm going to put my bishop on c4. So now I'm preparing to castle. I've got 1, 2, 3 pieces developed. Black only has 1 piece developed because of that threat from the knight, right? And I'm ready to castle. So I'm going to have an early advantage in this. And the reason is because my opponent brought out his queen too early. Okay, simple. Simple stuff. Right, I'm just going to castle now. This is a very quiet move and kind of a waste of a move in the opening as well, because look. So he's just used 2 moves to do this. I've used 1 move to go backwards, and he's still only got 1 piece developed, whereas I've got 1, 2, 3, and I've castled, which is worth 2, so it's 5-1. And he's just moved a developed piece a second time. Now if he wants to take my bishop, I can recapture with the pawn. If I push c3, I could recapture with the queen. My knight's looking at this pawn here. And, should I just play d4? Knight takes bishop. I recapture with the a pawn. And this is on the principle that, here's what to look out for. I have castled. Black hasn't. So black's king is still in the middle of the board. Therefore, what we want to do is we want to go and remove those pawns in the middle of the board. We want to open up lines towards this king. So that's what I want to do. Nothing dramatic here. c4 now looks good. If b takes, I've got b takes, and that's actually my a pawn. Okay, let's bring the queen out. I thought about using using the knight, but this develops the queen, right? Plus, the queen's now looking at the g7 pawn. What that means is that this bishop can't come out. It wants to come out to allow black to castle. Now, if he wants to trade his bishop for this, then so be it. I'm just going to put my rook on e1. So now if bishop takes, I've got pawn takes that comes with check. Still might think about playing c4 at some point. I've not done anything clever. My opponent has played weaker moves, and I have played more solid moves. That's all it is. Nothing brilliant or spectacular in any of this. The material is actually equal. We've both lost a minor piece under pawn. And now he's having a think. Oh, now he wants to attack my knight. Oh, okay. I see another pawn move. All these pawn moves are unnecessary. And what's more, look at the state of that bishop now. That bishop's got nothing. One thing I notice, I think I'm just looking at putting my knight here, right? It attacks the rook. But more than that, it actually becomes a second attacker on this pawn too. The pawn is defended twice, but I kind of like the idea of sticking my knight in there. I think it looks like a troublemaker. Twisted Firestarter. This knight as well could maybe look at that. Okay, that's an interesting move actually. So he's attacking my queen and breaking the queen's defense of the knight. I do, however, have this move. Let's see if there's a better one. So this comes with check. He's going to have to block it with something. I also have queen takes that. Queen takes. Queen must take. Knight takes. Right, so I've given up a knight for a pawn, but then the king will have to move, and the rook will have trouble getting out into the board, right? So that's something to think about, but is there a better line? So if I come here, he's going to block with, say, bishop or knight. It really should be the knight, because if he blocks, say, queen here, blocks with a bishop, I capture this pawn and threaten the rook, right? So let's say he blocks with the knight. If he blocks with the queen, we can swap off queens, whatever. Blocks with the knight, I can also just capture this pawn. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that line. So this was a critical point. I took a minute out of my 10 minutes to decide what was going to be best there. It looked like a good move for my opponent at first, and he's done the right thing. He's blocked with the knight. Okay, so now I can technically capture this pawn if I want. My knight is under attack by the queen, so I need to do something. If I take the pawn, what's he got? He can move the knight and attack the queen. Let's see what he does. There is the potential of a discovery by the bishop, but my queen can now move to either of these squares and still defend the knight, right? And he's just lost a pawn in that process. There we go, there's the discovery. So now I'm going to throw in the check again. And now he can't capture my knight. So whatever happens next, I might have the option of capturing the rook or the knight here. So maybe he should have just moved the rook out of harm's way in the first place. We shall see. So he's got to block the check, right? There's no way, he can't move out of there. So there goes the knight. Okay, so now I can just grab the rook. I'm expecting queen takes. Then I could put my bishop behind my queen, maybe drop my queen in here and force the exchange of queens. See, so if the queen takes there... Okay, bishops took. Right, fair enough. Alright, so what's the situation? I'm up the exchange and a pawn. So up the exchange means that I've traded a minor piece, in that case my knight, for a rook. And black is not in a happy place, it must be said. This pawn is also hanging, it must also be said. The knight's pinned. The knight really wants to move because this bishop can't get out and neither can this rook. If he tries to move the pawn to release the bishop, I take the rook. So my queen is very aggressively placed there. I've got like bishop g5, putting pressure on the knight. I've also got rook takes a6. Let's bring the bishop out, connect the rooks up together. Generally a good thing, good for safety. I'm a safety girl. Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman. Now, I spy with my little eye something beginning with... Ah, no, it's gone. Oh well, nearly. Smothered mate was the idea. When the king's here, right, and if I'd have got my knight to this square, checkmate. King can't move. Nothing can capture it. That'd be cool. But my opponent has played this. Attacking the queen. You attack him as the queen? So, the queen now has to move off of here, which means the knight is going to be unpinned. But actually the knight's also pinned on the queen, so he's pinned twice. He's just totally pinned. Now, could I capture the knight? Queen takes with trade queens, and I'm winning because I'm up 3. I capture the knight. Bishop takes. I grab the pawn. I grab the knight. Pawn takes queen. Bishop takes queen. I don't know. I think it works out all right either way. Let's try it. Let's try it. It's only 16 rating points if I screw it up. So if queen takes, we can just trade off, right? And then I'm going to go into the endgame with a pair of rooks that my opponent does not have. Okay, so if queen takes, we're happy. If he takes my queen, I take his queen. All right, and now takes and takes. Okay, so now we're going into the endgame. Black is probably about to castle, but let's grab this pawn just for reasons of mischief. Okay, he's now castled. Bishop's attacking that, it's defended only by the rook. How about this? I'll just attack this pawn. Sometimes you just have to say what is the simplest and most obvious thing. Right? And sometimes it's just going after material. And the computer will help you with that. The computer very often likes material. So I don't know, how are you going to defend that pawn? I mean, if he moves it forward, I just take. He can't defend with the bishop, because I just take. He can't defend it with the rook, because I just take. And then bishop there and checkmate. Also, this bishop's not defended. He has the Wayward, see. Had a little rebound in my rating prospects. My fortunes have changed, that's the word I'm looking for, fortunes. They're now back up to 1435 after dipping below 1400. Which kind of stang, but hey. Okay, so he's letting me take. Is this the idea? He's going to push this pawn, yeah? I don't care. I want him to push the pawn. I'm happy for him to push the pawn. Okay, so now I'm going to go... Where am I going to go with my rook? Can't go here. Can't go here. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 options. I'm going to go for that one. Now if he wants to take, you see, I want to take his pawn. And then... you see, this is fine. So now we have rook here. Bishop's undefended. Oh, tits. Didn't see that. Oh, what a plonker, you see? What a plonker. Right, but I am still 3 pawns up. Oh, no, you don't. And we have to watch out for back ranks. However, I do have 2 pieces that can hit the same square. That's an important thing to note with your back rank risks. Okay? So if, let's say, he had another go and this rook comes down, I don't have to sweat it because I can play rook e1. And if he takes my rook, then knight recaptures. Happy days. Okay? However, I am going to play g3. And the reason is because my opponent has a dark squared bishop, and that takes away this square and this square from that bishop. So now all I need to do is, you can tell obviously that I deliberately blundered my rook, just for reasons of education. Okay, I'm going to play my knight to here. My knight generally wants to start making roads towards this guy. But it likes to be, in the endgame, your knight's good in the middle of the board. It's controlling lots and lots of squares. I'm not worried about that. I mean, it is currently defended by my knight. However, I might just push b4 and remove another square from the bishop. Look at all these squares where the bishop can't land. See? And then if I put my knight onto a light square, so what I'd love him to do this. Well, I would, because I just nabbed the bishop. But you see, he's made an escape square now as well, because he was at risk of getting back ranked. So now we are in an ending. Didn't think it would end this way. End? Death is not the end. So, all who live to see such times. But it is not for us to decide. Right, now if I can get my knight right, knight here, guess what? I've laid a little trap. You see, the knight is now covering black's king's escape square. Now rook e8 would actually be checkmate. It'd be checkmate, he'd be finished, mate. Unless he moves a pawn or somehow covers that square, but I think rook d1 would be the only way to do that. Now, have you spotted the checkmate threat? I made a video this morning about the importance of looking at the board from your opponent's perspective, and we can actually do this, you know? So if I'm black here, what would I be thinking? Oh, my king can't go there. That's the first thing I'd be thinking. Why did my opponent play that move? Well, he's covering my escape square. Oh no, he's got a rook ready to dive in. So I should probably bring my rook back, yeah? That's what I'd be thinking. Now, in classical chess, sometimes, you know, when you play over the board in tournaments, sometimes a player will get up out of their seat, walk round and stand over the shoulder of their opponent to see the board from your opponent's point of view. We can just hit the X key on the keyboard. Right, that's all good. It's a lot easier for us and without the extreme effort of having to get up out of your chair. Okay, I think we have mate. We have mate. Okay, he thought about that. Minute 10 he thought about that and he failed to spot the threat, and that's why we say on the checklist, number 1, is my king safe? Okay, he wants to play another game. Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay. So I'm going to play normal, e4, e5. Oh, the Wayward Queen attack. I love the Wayward Queen attack. My best friend Nelson plays the Wayward Queen attack. Ha! Alright, he's going for a checkmate, isn't he? So, here the temptation is knight there, but then bang, boom, it's all over. You really aren't playing the Wayward Queen attack against me. Really? Really? Okay, so g6 is an idea, or queen e7 or queen f6. Queen e7 blocks off the bishop. Right? Queen f6 blocks off the knight. I'm going to play this one. I kind of like that. Then I might do the same thing to him. I'd throw my bishop out and target f2. See how he likes it. Wayward Queen attack. Really, I've never heard of such a thing. I don't care if Magnus has played it. Okay, I'm just going to throw my bishop out and threaten an attack of my own. In fact, but because of course his queen has moved, yeah, if I play queen takes f2, he does have an escape. Right, but then I put my queen here. And it's not going to be very nice for him. But let's see. What can we do with... I want to bring my knight out on a castle. People sending me more challenges. Okay, this is interesting. So now he's defending this pawn with his knight, but I can now play, for example, this, d5. Or just d6. d6, and then I've got a discovered attack by my light squared bishop on his knight. I'm going to play that, right? And the idea is, take out the knight, probably queen recaptures, but then queen takes f2 check, king has to move here, and he's lost castling rights. That's the general plan. Hokey cokey. He's playing with some aggression. I like this boy. Right. Like that, is it? Okay, he's attacking my queen. Fair enough. I have queen g6. Right, if queen takes, h takes, happy days. Can't go there, can't go there, I can't go there, I can't go there. I can't go there, I can't go there. Right, I've only got one move. That wasn't difficult. And now, whatever happens, we've got the possible trade of queens, so don't think he can kill me. Bishop takes f7. I've got king takes or queen takes, and he's just lost the bishop. So he can't retreat to there. Okay, so we've traded queens. Fair enough. And I'm just going to recapture the h-pawn. Gives me two attackers against this guy. Yeah? So now my idea is bring out the bishop. I might take the knight, but I want a castle now. Queenside, get my rook centralized, and then think about destroying my opponent. I also have this. Knight to year or year, looking at c2, you see. I also have this to attack the bish. But I kind of favour... I mean, what does this do? What does this move do? Pawn f6, bishop can't go there. It just makes the bishop move, really. That's all. Okay, so I'm going to go in with my knight. Now again, he does have this knight move, but I have a bishop ready that can snatch the knight off. So I'm going to centralise my knight. I think that in general d4 is a better square than b4, because it's in the middle of the board. Yeah? From here, the knight is looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares, right? From here, if he was here, how many would he be looking at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because the other two squares are on the other file. Oh, that's interesting. He's moved his bishop back. Right, option 1. Remove the bishop and then pawn takes. Option 2, a5, a4. Try and get rid of the bishop. But if a5, his knight comes out. a4, he can't castle. I'm going to do that move. We're going to try this. Let's keep it tactical and aggressive. Not worried about bishop coming here or here. Bishop could come there or there, but if he does, I do this and I win myself a rook, which is nice. Bishop's also x-raying f2, worth bearing in mind. All grist to the mill. So talk to yourself when you play. The more I talk to myself, the madder I sound, but the better my results are. You know, when I'm in a good mood, I talk to myself more about the game. I say things like, the bishop's the only defender of that pawn. That pawn is attacked by the knight. Just say the facts as they are. Okay, I have f6 to kick the bishop if I need it. Right? Ooh, ooh, ooh. All right, I'm inclined to drop back, I think, maybe. I don't know, I kind of don't mind if he wants to take me. No, I can't. I can't do this because he takes and I can't take the bishop because then he takes me, you see, again. So I'm going to drop back. And if bish takes, and that would be good for me. Then I can play f6 and then I can castle. So another fact of the game is I can't castle queenside yet because A, the bishop's in the way, but B, I'll be passing through check because of this bugger here. But I have f6. Remember? We talked about this. Okay, now bishop takes. And now I'm kind of comfortable. I have the bishop pair. Bishop pair is an advantage when you've got an open board and can be a big advantage in the endgame. I have a bishop looking at here. So should my opponent try and castle right now, the king is the only defender of this. Ha-ha! Cheekiness. Looks like we're trading bishops. Okay, and I'm castling. Interesting. Now, I don't have this, do I? Bishop takes a2. Now, if the pawn was on c2, then he'd have this, and that would trap the bishop. I couldn't get out. However, he does have a knight there, which vexes me. I'm going to send my knight this way and try and see if I can't get a rook fork. Got 7 minutes left, plenty of time. Plenty of time. So it's very, very hot here at the moment. I mean, it's not hot country hot, but it's hot for England hot. So if I come here, I've actually got a couple of dangers. One is that I go here with the fork and win the exchange. The other is that I've actually got two attackers on this pawn. So I can play rook takes, knight takes, so I just win a pawn and leave him with an isolated g-pawn. Yeah. Right, let's shut the door. Got a lad working in the garden with some machinery. Thank you for your patience. Your call is important to us. Another thing about knight g4 that I notice is this pawn is undefended. Okay, I'm going to play it because I've got two threats. One is this, two attackers, one defender. The other is this, which comes with a fork on rook and pawn. So I think either way, I'm kind of happy. Also notice, so I'm just setting out reminders for myself. Alexa, add a reminder. If this knight ever moves, I can capture a2. So you could play like rook here, but then I've got like knight takes, attacking the rook, and he can't take back with a rook. I know. Rook here, knight takes, rook here. Might not work. He's playing a lot better in this game. Okay, so now. I have this pawn, but can I get out of there? Or will I be stuck? Right now I've got h6. If I take this pawn, he plays rook here. I'm still attacking that pawn. But if I take this pawn, he plays rook there. I don't know. Can I be trapped? Place rook here, defending this pawn. Then what I need to do is... So if my knight's on here, right? My knight's on here, I want to get rid of this pawn or this pawn to give myself a square. I need to get rid of a light squared pawn. So I'll probably just push f5. So let's think it through, right? Knight takes there, rook to here, f5. Actually, also, I noticed something. He can't take that. Because I've rook takes rook. So I'm going to not have to worry, right? I'm going to capture the pawn, I'm going to threaten this rook. If he threatens me, I could move back and go, oh no, my knight, right? And if he takes, boom. The room will be shaken. Can you hear the brush cutter in the background? Got a young lad helping me get on top of the garden, which is like a jungle. I mean, it is like a jungle. Okay, so he's played this move. That's the move that I saw. I quite like that. Okay, now I can come here and attack the rook again, right? That's charming, that is. Attack the rook again. If he takes, I win his rook. And then also this knight's going to be a bit stuck. And then I can also grab the pawn back. So he can't take. You didn't think that through, did you? Now I can retreat my knight to h6. And I'm a pawn up at this point in time, but my opponent's on 4.5 minutes. But we do have an increment. We've got a 5-second increment on this game. So we can't relax. Now I'm attacking his rook. So what's he going to do? Can't go there, can't stay there. So he's got 1, 2, 3 squares he can go to. And I think pretty much whatever he does, I'm probably just going to retreat the knight. But like I say, I don't actually have to do it right now. Okay. And I think, how about f5? f5. If pawn takes, g takes, and then my knight has got a nice little hole to climb into behind there. Notice I've got a bit of, my pawn majority is like here, isn't it really? We've all got 5, the first, all these, we've got all, okay, Now, this pawn is not pinned because rook can recapture. So, back comes the knight. Back comes the knight. Remember, this guy's still there, which is important. He's kind of the defender of this, so he's preventing the capture of that because he supports this move. Yeah? And king comes here, and the bishop falls. We don't want that. Okay. So he's attacking my pawn, huh? You attacking my pawn? You attacking my pawn? Huh? Just lift my pawn. Now I've got pawns on dark squares. Look at these. Lots of pawns on dark squares. That means this bishop can move with some freedom, which is nice. Okay. This pawn hangs. I'm having it. And it's been hanging since he moved that knight, right? So he's moved the knight, was defended twice, and now he's pushed another pawn, so he's undefended this. So I've gone in and grabbed it. Also moved my knight towards the king, which is generally a nice thing. Now, this knight also, notice, is protecting this square, which would come with a fork. So it'd be awesome to remove that knight. But I think, should I remove this pawn first? I'm a pawn up at this time. I'd like to play my bishop there and try and encourage that knight to move. But I don't have to do it just yet. Let's maintain my pawn structure. Got 2 pawn islands. I'm quite happy. Knight's on a dark square, on a light square, which means he can only go to dark squares, and they're all kind of covered. This guy can't move because I have this. So I'm not being any cleverer than my opponent here. I'm just doing a better job of noticing what's going on. Okay, now I'm 2 pawns up. Now, I do notice now, with him moving the rook from there to here, this is now a fork. So if I just were to dodge my... Okay, let's think this through. Rook takes, rook takes. Okay, now if rook takes, king takes, happy days, because I go in and fork the king and the rook, right? But that's not going to happen. So you have to assume your opponent's going to play better moves. So rook takes, rook takes. And I can snatch this knight off, but this is a bad knight. It's a bad knight. It can't progress. So I'm inclined just to do this, just to be a little bit sneaky, a little bit cheeky. See what his plans are, yeah? Because now I've got knight here with the threat of that. He's just moved his rook. The right thing would be to move his rook again, or move his other rook, right? Sometimes people don't want to move the same piece twice, because you think it looks stupid. But it's not stupid if it's the right move. And it is the right move here, because now he's going to lose the exchange. He didn't notice that his rooks were forkable. And that's going to be a real hindrance. Okay, there we go. And a resignation. So there you go. Nice couple of games against somebody rated around the 750 mark. I think he played better in the second game, but 2 very decent games. I'll say good sport, good game. Thank you very much. So yeah, if you're around 750, so we've seen the Wayward Queen on my side. Can't remember what we saw in the first game. Just an e4, e5 deal, wasn't it? No, this was e4, e5. Yes, it was. I played e4, e5, knight f3, and that was lots of fun. Okay, but yeah, all interesting. Hope it's been useful for you. I hope you've picked up 1 or 2 interesting and useful tips that you can carry forward into your own games. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.